Hello everyone, welcome to the 2002 Roadtrek CR Laurence window removal and install. I came up with a solution where these windows will never come off. So I'm going to show you how to remove them. First of all, you want to make sure the window doesn't fall out, because this bracket is actually missing one over here for the window pop out. That one fell off, and this one is kind of holding the window together. If you're concerned about the window falling off, you can always put tape on the top. So no bracket on this side, and we have our 3-inch wheel bracket over here. Moving on. Okay, so you have two options. You can use an X-Acto knife, or you can use a razor blade. This one, a little precarious. This one does a little bit better job. It gets in there, kind of gets straight. This one kind of goes to the angle. So what we're going to be doing is removing the bracket here, as I almost stabbed myself. Move the bracket. I'll get in here. So basically what I want to do is you want to get in and you want to actually get the blade in between the metal bracket and the glass. Moving on. I did, just for safety precaution, I did put a strip of Gorilla Tape on the top so the window doesn't fall off while I'm doing this. Now the bracket's already off, that fell off. This one, for some reason, the glue is holding. So it's kind of hard to take this one off, but you just have to park it in the sun, or you can use a heat gun, kind of loosen up, and you just kind of work the X-Acto knife in between the glass and the bracket. Okay, so after a little bit of elbow grease and breaking the X-Acto knife in two different places, I was able to work this razor blade and kind of moved it both sides, side to side, and then I just went up from the bottom, and I did, as a precaution, put on another glove, and I was able to pry it away. So there we go. And this is part of the reason why these windows fall off, is because if this joint up here, this hinge, loses its adhesion, and it's just these brackets that's holding out the window, it'll actually just slide right off. There's nothing holding these brackets on at all. Okay, now that both of these are off, I only removed one since the other one fell off on its own. Removing the tape, and then on these brackets, as you get up perpendicular to the actual RV, you just pull down and it comes off just like that. So here is the actual frame that these windows are mounted to. It's a small little piece of aluminum, and it's only glued on, and that's what fails. So after just pulling it off, I haven't even started cutting this yet. I haven't even done anything. I'm just barely applying a little bit of pressure to this frame, and it's starting to already peel off. So you can either use a heat gun to kind of get the rest of it off. The window's actually pretty hot right now, just from being in the sun, and we're about 60 degrees outside right now here in Utah. This side is already also coming off. So this window eventually would have failed, just like the window on the other side when that fell off in January in the Arizona desert. Just working the razor blade against the adhesion glue, whatever they used on these windows. So once again, this is on a CRL or CR Laurence window. I'll have a link in the description of the actual model number and which vehicles these actually go on, because there's quite a few of these frameless windows they go on. So just being careful. Don't want to ruin this glass, don't want to keep this glass. So just keep working it down the window. So there was a lot more glue towards the center part of the window. Both sides toward the end really didn't have a lot of adhesion. Probably did at one point, but that was already starting to work its way towards the middle. So what I did is I just carefully got the razor blade and went down the back side, just kind of scored a little bit. And then the bracket's now off. I just took some time to be careful not to ruin the bracket and not to break the window. So basically that strip right here That's all the window is really. That's the only size that it's actually holding onto the window. Okay, so here's the window. Here's the acrylic window. It's actually twice as thick as the factory window. This is a 1/4 inch acrylic. This is 1/8 inch tempered glass. So what we're going to do, we're going to kind of set this thing aside. We're going to use this as kind of a template of where we're going to put on our brackets, so we know exactly where to mount them. We already have the hole pre-drilled, so we'll go ahead and take this piece off, and this is going to be the inside we're going to be taking off, and we're going to leave the outside cover on. These are asymmetrical, so it doesn't really matter which side you mount. Okay, so basically what you want to do is you want to measure 1/4 inch from the edge of the window, and just make sure, I'll flip it around so everyone can see, just to make sure that you are centered on your bracket. Since now we're centered, some of the pins don't really go through the window since it's 1/4 inch thick. I have this Crayola, borrowed it from the kids, marker, so we're going to mark the aluminum frame on both sides, making sure that the frame is actually butted up against the acrylic window. Okay. Okay, so I have it marked on both sides, and what you want to do is make sure that you're not drilling to the outside edge. So I'm actually going to mark it just a teeny bit higher, and over here as well. And we're going to be using a 3/16 drill bit. Is actually not a 3/16, it's actually going to be a 1/8 inch drill bit. So we'll be using that one, and I already have it on here. So what you want to do is you want to clamp this down pretty securely. I have a pressure clamp here, and then where you're going to drill, so then your frame doesn't move around, you can actually just clamp it down right to the edge. You don't want to mess up this part here and clamp down, so I'm going to clamp down right there. I can just test fit to make sure that goes in. And we need to make the hole just a teeny bit bigger. Let's move up one size. So I stepped up to a 9/16 bit, so then you don't have to rock the bit back and forth. Keep in mind, this is the second time I've ever done this. Unclamp it, and then this goes through on the back side, which we are still just a teeny bit too small on the hole, so we can step up one more size. Okay, so I'm actually switching over to the 3/16 bit that I mentioned before, so we're gonna use this one. And that fits perfect. So to be on the safe side, I'm starting out with the 9/16 bit. Don't want to make too big of a hole and then mess up, because we really only have one shot at this. Okay, both of those are done. Okay, so I switched out the blade to an actual clean blade. The other blade was kind of beat up a little bit from doing the window bracket. So what I'm going to do is take off the old adhesion in here. You will scratch it, you'll scrape a little bit. If you're worried about it, you can actually spray paint this. The nice thing is, this thing is aluminum, so it is not going to rust. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of clean this off and see what area I need to hit. You can use 3M adhesive remover. That might also help. That stuff pulls off pretty much anything. But in this case, it wasn't that much, so it's not that big of a deal to clean it. Okay. So I'm going to clean out the actual hinge part just to make sure there's no debris in there. So when we go to mount it on, it's not going to cause any issues. Using a small flathead. I did have to, pick the busiest day to record this, but with Utah, you never know. We just got a bunch of snow on Sunday, and now we are warming up. Got it all clean. All right, so what I did is I made sure the holes actually line up, so that's a good thing. The next step would be to peel this back. So what we're going to be doing is peeling this back so we can actually apply the 3M double-sided sticky tape. We're using the VHB 3M tape, and that will act as a waterproof seal, and over time VHB tape will become one and be part of the acrylic. So to make it a little easier, you're going to want to peel whatever you choose, the back side. You want to have the whole entire thing off. So it'll just be a lot easier and you don't have to worry about it when it's actually on. So just kind of go slow and steady and just pull it off. Otherwise you'll have a bunch of pieces and it kind of takes a little bit to get this stuff off. And there is the inside of the window. So I went ahead and applied the VHB tape. This VHB tape is about 1 inch wide, but we don't really need it that long wide. So you can actually put it down as far as you want. I just kind of put it down a little bit lower than what the actual bracket will sit down on. And then you can take a razor blade, whatever you're comfortable with, or scissors, or you can pre-cut it. But it's kind of a pain to pre-cut this and kind of handle it at the same time because it's super, super sticky. And you could use that for anything else you want. Okay, so that's the inside of the window, right? Okay. So now that we have the tape on there and we have it kind of cut to fit, you can use a little tiny drill bit and you can actually just kind of poke through just by twisting and then kind of working the drill bit around so then you can pull the screw through. Flip it over and do the other side. Okay, finally got it. It was kind of a pain to pull the backing off, but there we go. And then we can put the bracket on, the hinge, line up on your holes, and press down all the way across, pushing down on the top of the hinge as you do it, and on the surface, back side of the window and the top side. So like that piece is huge, and so I want to see if so you can actually, you know, cut the VHB tape to the actual thickness of the bracket. What I did on the other window that I installed last month is I just actually rolled it up to the frame, and it's been working nice as a nice watertight seal. I haven't had any issues with the other window. So you can either cut it to fit, or you can just roll it up and push it right to the base of the bracket, the hinge. Okay, so for this is the window bracket. I put it in a clamp it down. Wouldn't really recommend holding it while you're actually using a razor blade. So safety first, just go through and just kind of trim off the old adhesion glue. So take your old window and figure out, of course, you can totally tell where the brackets were at, and this bracket looked like it was been repaired at one point in time, but it actually fell off. So we are 3 inches about or so from the bottom. This one is about 3.5 inches, and this one over here, it's really hard to tell. So we're going to go with 3.5 inches on where you're going to place your bracket and mark it on this window. Okay, so I measured from the bottom 3.5 inches. I didn't really matter where I was going, left and right, so I'm just going to take the bracket and kind of go just right across. And the nice thing about this acrylic is you can use IPA on it, alcohol, to take it off. Try that one more time. Did not mark the window. There we go. Kind of straight, but we'll get the picture eventually. Okay. That doesn't look right. Pause it. Alright, here is the bottom of the window. We're going to measure the brackets. We're going to measure from the bottom. And you're at the curvature there, so you can kind of go out. You can use a ruler, but it's about 3 inches. It doesn't have to be actually precise. On the other window that I did it right at 3 inches, and it's perfect, and it opens and closes without issue. Okay, so I have my mark here. I actually did a wrong mark there. I did 3.5 inches. So I double checked on my other window, and it is correct. It is 3 inches. So you can mark from where it doesn't actually curve, where it's flat. And this is on the acrylic window, the new one. And then you can use your bracket or whatever you want to use. If my pen will behave today. It's getting cold. And then the bracket, you want it to be left and right. Sorry, you want the left side, the L of the bracket, you want it to the outside of the window, facing towards the edge. And that's about where you want your window. So the tricky part is, how are you going to mark it? I have it over on the edge, and we're going to be marking it where we want to actually drill into this piece right here, into the bracket. So I'll put it down on the bottom line, which is 3 inches. I'll move it over and mark it from the bottom. or turn it around and mark it there. So it didn't actually work. Alright, I am aligning it up. I'll have it over here on the edge, so it is 3 inches from the bottom to the bottom of the slide bracket. Putting it over, kind of guesstimating where it's at, and then you can flip it over or break your window. You can always order another one. Just kidding. And mark it. It doesn't go through. I don't know why. There's the mark. Let's go bigger and record it on the other one. Okay, so an 1/8 inch screw, but we're using an actual 9/64 drill bit. And you want to just be careful you don't go to the outside edge. So if your hole, your marker, if you're marked like over here, you want to actually just move it over kind of pretty much, you know, center point on the bracket. And then after you do that, you want to just kind of oversize. And then see if your 2.5 millimeter screw fits. And this needs to be open up a teeny bit more. And there you go. So I have the VMB tape. It's actually pretty much perfect on the brackets. So you can set brackets side by side, and then you can cut to fit the VHB tape. I think I call it the VMB. So then you can cut down right down the middle. I need to open it up a teeny bit. Separate it and cut. And then also, like we did on the window, you can use a small drill bit and you can just kind of go through and twist. I wouldn't use the drill bit to do this because it will snag the VHB tape and pull the whole thing through, and then you have to redo it. Okay, so we're going to take off the front backing. This is the front of the window now, and I'm only going to take it off to about there, just so if there's any chance of scratching it, it'll be minimized. So we'll pull back both sides, get a little bite on the corner, and that happens. I'll pull from the top or from the bottom. So for this step, you're going to need to get your posts. These are 3/16 posts, and I have the screw caps all ready to go. So now this is the outside of the window, and what I like to do, depending on which direction the van is facing, so this is going to be the back of the vehicle. So then I want to have the screw caps actually face the opposite way, so the wind doesn't actually open it up. So we're going to go ahead and put these through. So I have it the wrong way because I'm turned around. So we will have it facing, no, I had it right. Yep, those won't open. Okay, then you get your posts, your screws, and you thread it through the back side. Let's go ahead and stand it up. biggest flathead you can, and you're not going to want to torque these down too much. Otherwise you'll run the risk of, you know, stripping them out. Doesn't really have to be too tight. These are just more to kind of secure the window completely in place if the VHB tape ever fails, which it probably won't. So the nice thing about these flathead is they line up with the line on the back. Okay. Okay, now that we have the caps in place, we can go ahead and snap them on. And now just putting it back the way we had it last time, how we had to take it off, kind of push all the way across, and then make sure you're kind of lined up, and make sure the middle part is actually lined up. And if you can't pull down, that means you're not in the right spot. So okay, stop. Okay, so basically the same way you took it off, put it perpendicular up to the window, to the frame, and you're going to want to make sure that you're actually all the way in so you don't bend this aluminum hinge, and you just make sure, give it a nice little tug, and then just be careful. You're going to be resting on these guys right here. So looks like the holes kind of line up pretty good. They're pretty close to the wheels. It might be kind of hard in the video, but there's where the wheels are, and this is where the track's going to go. So at this point, we'd actually, now that we have it on, we know it's not going to fall off. We can actually take off the rest of the backing to the outside of the window. And it's getting colder, so it's a little bit harder to pull these off. When it's warm outside, it'll be a little bit easier. And there we go. So we are going to put the brackets on. After you drill the holes, the lower portion is actually where it's not really centered. So this is going to be on the left side, and then this one is going to be for the right side. Actually, have it reversed again. It's going to be that way. So put this on, and you're just going to kind of lightly put it on, and you're going to want to like go in on the track. So if you can come in and see, so you're going to kind of go in on the wheel, because once you do this, there's kind of no going back unless you take it back off. And then you're going to want to line up where the hole is. So this is kind of the tricky part. Kind of look down, I can see where the hole is right there. Kind of rest it there, but don't really push down too hard on it. I'm going to do here, I got the 3.5mm hex screw, and then I put the nylon washer on. I'm going to go ahead and pop it through. It's going to be a little bit easier to kind of line this up. I'm going to find the hole, and then I'm going to kind of work its way into the, and through the VHB tape. And that way I know that I'm pretty centered. And before you lock it in place, you just want to make sure that your bracket is up and down. So I'll be pushing that through. Daylight, but I have my 2.5mm hex key, and then I have the actual nut right there. It's a nylon locking nut. Let's go ahead and try to get that in there, and pause. So I have the 2.5mm hex key, and I have the locking nylon nut there, and then I'm going to try to get it to thread on, so I can use the key to kind of help guide it on to the washer nut, excuse me. And then once you get it on, if you drilled kind of close enough to the actual bracket. It might be a little bit harder to kind of mount it on, but you just kind of work it out. So I am having to make a few adjustments where the hole that I drilled was just a little too close to the back side of the bracket. So I'm just going to kind of oversize the hole just a teeny bit to the edge of the bracket, so this little nut will actually fit. Otherwise it's sitting too close to the back side. I had to kind of drill out this side a little bit more. I did kind of hit the side of the bracket. That can be painted, but this one is secure. All right, and there is the finished window, all installed. Took a little bit of a... All right, everyone, here is the finished window, all put together. Got that side in perfect, kind of scratched up a little bit, but I can paint that. Or you can leave it as is. So now the window, just go ahead and test it. Go ahead and shut it here. Just close it all the way. Now the difference between these windows and the other windows is they're not quite curved, but they do have a slight, give to them. Over time they will curve to the curvature of the van. So right now, this is the first time shutting it. You have no gap in here. This one is the factory gasket. I did replace the gasket on the other side. This gasket seems to be pretty good. I'll probably go ahead and replace that gasket. When you do replace those, you want to make sure that you don't go with anything too thick. If you go with anything too thick, then the window will have a problem, and then you'll probably have a gap at the bottom. If you do put a new gasket on, always start from the middle point here and do all one piece all the way around on the inside, so that you won't have any leaks at all, and this will be your low point. The gasket that I would recommend that I use on the other side is this one here.